Welcome back, everyone. Great. I'm going to do my screen share. Okay. Great. Can one of you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay? Beautiful, beautiful. All right. So we are going to do a similar activity to what we did earlier. Just want to hear any feedback that you have on the outcomes that Kim just reviewed and recommendations to make sure that these outcomes, these draft outcomes are on track to track progress toward increased racial and social equity in South San Francisco. So this draft desired outcomes for goal number 1, and you'll see here goal number 1, and this isn't, I don't think we've had a chance yet to, finesse any of the language from the previous breakout, but it's ensuring ongoing oversight and accountability. And strategy 1.1, establish a dedicated equity and inclusion liaison or officer. So draft desired outcomes is to launch and coordinate the Community Equity and Safety Advisory Board, which we talked about earlier, increase coordination and collaboration between city departments, community orgs, and community members to address racial and social inequities in South San Francisco. And last, increase South San Francisco policies and procedures that explicitly address racial and social equity. Commissioner Mark Nogales, what comes up for you when you look at the draft outcome language, and is there anything else that you'd like to see here?
I think the coordination, the collaboration, it kind of stands out for me, because I think this person is going to be leading kind of the charge, you might say, in terms of making sure that we are more inclusive and promoting racial and social equity amongst our department, and that we're realizing that we still have a lot of work to do. I'm interested in also seeing how this person, I guess, launches and coordinates the advisory board. I mean, is this the person that's, I'm assuming, is going to be staffing the board? And I guess for a lot of, for those commissioners, I guess how they collaborate with each other, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of different ideas from the various commissioners, and not everyone's going to agree, I think, in terms of how to move forward, or like in terms of ideas. But I think it's going to be up to that person to kind of work together with everyone to try to find a common ground.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Mark. Commissioner Gladys?
Yeah, I don't see, maybe this is not the place, but I don't see a lot about kind of internal strategy around training for city employees. Like, I think it is definitely as part of the liaison work. So, because I mean, you talk about increased South San Francisco policies and procedures that explicitly address racial and social equity. A lot of times you have kind of an inside strategy to advance that. So you need the staff to be able to understand what this is, and because they know what the policies are.
That's great. And you were cutting off for at the mid portion there, so I just want to reflect it back to you and see that I got it. You were saying that don't see enough here about ensuring adequate training for staff. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Commissioner Gladys. Commissioner Jeff?
To piggyback Commissioner Gladys, I believe, so right now our HR department pretty much makes sure that everybody within the city is getting the training that they need to, as far as, when it comes to racial diversity training, sexual harassment, stuff like that. So I'm assuming that this liaison would kind of work hand in hand with HR, just making sure that people are getting the trainings that they need to within the time periods that they need to. and could help with that, especially if there's kind of newer training that we can be a part of.
Mhm.
And I think what Vice Mayor Nogales said is really going to be key. Is this person? I really hope we find this fantastic candidate. They're going to have their work cut out for them. There's going to be a lot for them to do, but I think the key will be this commission having someone like this liaison that could really kind of keep the commission going, moving forward, working together when they have disagreements or different paths. It's just going to be a very critical position, and I think they'll be able to pull it off. But I think a lot of work will be working within this commission to make sure that the different people on it are kind of moving in the same direction.
That's it. That's a really great point. Thank you so much for sharing, Commissioner Futrell.
All great points. I would say the first year, though, will be focused on the commission, the new commission, and just finding their place in the staff hierarchy. Running this commission, the board that we're currently on, takes a lot of work. We meet every week. We meet sometimes twice a week to make sure that these meetings run smoothly. So until that new Community Equity and Safety Advisory Board gets up and running and itself finds its footing and a vision and a direction, that's going to be a lot of work. So I don't want to put too much on this one individual, at least for the first year. But I think all the comments have been really helpful. Particularly the training one, that they should be coordinating and tracking with HR and the departments to make sure it's effective, and we're not just in some routine of doing the rote training every year that gets less and less effective every year. So yeah, this is a big job that we're expecting from this person. So that's my comment.
Most definitely. Thank you so much for that. On the draft outcomes or desired outcomes for goal number 2, reducing or eliminating the harm of structural racism by reimagining public safety. And I think it's a little different now. There's some more wordsmithing here, but on this goal area. So the draft outcomes for the for strategy 2.1, which is create a community wellness and crisis response team, are to ensure that to increase timely access to appropriate behavioral health resources for those in crisis, especially for folks of color in South San Francisco, increase knowledge of mental health conditions, increase effective intervention strategies among law enforcement personnel, decrease police interaction with community members when not required. For example, decrease calls requiring police response. What are your takeaways here, and is there anything that is missing? Could we start with you, Commissioner Nogales? Commissioner Mark Nogales?
I think these are all good points. I think it kind of comes back to, for me, when we hire this mental health professional, that's going to be kind of coordinating a lot, I guess, coordinating with the police department. Like, there needs to be some synergy with the police department on how these calls are going to be, I guess, routed, and how this person gets support in terms of these calls. And then providing the necessary resources needed to handle these type of calls. I'm really excited about this idea of having a mental health professional being there to alleviate a lot of the pressure, and then helping those potentially with severe mental health issues that a mental health professional can tackle from a different perspective, from a mental health side. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to in a sense. I don't see anything here that I would change. I think for me, it's more about getting that person in there and then providing us the feedback of what they need in terms of resources and how they get there.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Gladys?
So in this one, talking about creating a community wellness and crisis response team, the last point that you had is decreased police interaction with community members when not required. It's really interesting because it's almost like you having a negative item in there. And my suggestion is put it in a positive way because you want to build relationships with community members. So you actually want to promote the police interaction with community, maybe in the context of community wellness. I don't know how that, but I think it doesn't feel that, it feels like, why are we, it's like we explicitly are saying that we need to separate community members from the police. And I just want us to think about that in a different way, in a more positive way. What is the positive that we can build through this strategy? I think you're muted.
Look at me being muted and having a great point. Sorry, I was saying you were cut off for the last little bit, but I think I got what you were mentioning about the last outcome area in this strategy is framed in a negative way and needs to be reframed in terms of wellness and promoting health relationship. Thank you so much, Commissioner Gladys. Commissioner Jeff?
Yeah. Obviously, we're in the process of doing this. As far as number 3, increase effective intervention strategies among, law enforcement personnel. We're developing more trainings and we're trying to update the way that officers are trained in trying to give them more strategies about dealing with, especially people with mental illness and crisis. Until there's a time when the police won't be used for any of these calls. Until that time, we need to continue to learn and try to get better in how we work with people that are in crisis. And I agree with Gladys. The fourth, I understand we're trying to decrease interaction when some sort of where the police officer needs to be as taking authority or using police powers, but I don't want to decrease those positive interactions. And if we have less calls where we need to use the officers, that hopefully will give us more time to where we can use them just in proactive, positive contacts. So I never want to just lose all police interaction, but if we can have others handle these calls without needing the police, then that's better for us. I think that's better for all involved.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Commissioner Mike Futrell?
Sure. I'm also going to pick on number 4 in the time we have. It's just worded in a strange way. Now, how I see it, and in the long run, I would like to see fewer 911 calls about mental health crisis to start with. So you have reactive 911 call, then you decide who's going to go respond. Or you have proactive, where this individual will get to know those in our community that have a history of mental illness episodes. Maybe they don't take their meds regularly, whatever it might be. Work with them proactively so that they get into a stable mental health situation, and then 911 is never called at all. When I read that, that's where I was hoping it was going. And it'll take us a while to get there, but I'm an optimist that we can attack it in that way.
Great. Thank you so much.